Hi, I'm David Lee, Autism Behavior Therapies BCBA. I'm doing a series of instructional videos on how to use Behavior Tracker, mostly how to upload your session notes and how to put in documents that you have scanned or photographed to stick into clients' files on Behavior Tracker. So in this section we will be looking at how to actually get onto Behavior Tracker using an iPad and how to put in your session notes. I will say that the iPad application is not as good as the PC version access for doing a number of functions, and so I will point out a couple of the workarounds and problems that you're going to run into with the iPad application. If you have an iPad that has 3G and is connected at all times to the internet, then you can send information and data over to Behavior Tracker's website from the home. But if you have a Wi-Fi only iPad, you will have to be somewhere where there's Wi-Fi access for the stuff to transmit. At the moment, Behavior Tracker doesn't allow you to write session notes and then wait around until you get Wi-Fi available so that you can upload those session notes. It won't do it. Therefore, you have to take session notes on another application as a Word document or something like that. And then when you get near Wi-Fi, then you can upload it when you have access to the website through Wi-Fi. So it's not as straightforward as we would like it to be, and hopefully Behavior Tracker will improve as more people use it. So, assuming you've got Behavior Tracker installed on your iPad, which you probably have through the Apple Store, and hopefully the bosses gave you a code or something, so it was free. You have that installed on your iPad. You will find the icon probably on one of these screens, and you will tap on it with your finger. And at least on my Wi-Fi equipped iPad, I was unable to get into the website with an iPad at home with my Wi-Fi going. And I complained to the programmer of Behavior Tracker, and he said I was the only guy who ever had that problem. So maybe the problem's fixed. Lately I'm able to get into it, but if you have problems getting into it after signing in with your Wi-Fi iPad, then there may be some problem with a proxy server. But hopefully you won't ever have this problem, because I already did the grunt work and complain to the programmer. From here you'll see the team web portal. This will take you to the members login screen. You will put your username and your password into it. On an iPad there's a built-in electronic keyboard you can use to type it all in. Otherwise you can use a external Bluetooth keyboard to put it in. Assuming that works out, you'll be going to the members home page, and then you can select your student or your client, as well as a bunch of other functions. So now we're going to pick the student that you're going to upload your session note for. You will look around to the lower left to see a bunch of clickable links, and one is called Session Notes. So you're going to click on Session Notes, and you're going to come to this screen. When you get to the session note screen, you can see it there. You will see a pull down drop down menu, and it'll have a bunch of kids in there, a bunch of clients, and you will pick the client that you're writing the session note for. You can see from this one that there's already a session note started. This is a dummy test for privacy reasons. There's already a session note. You are going to add a session note. You can see it up there on the right. Now we're looking at the blank fillable screens that you put into information for your session note. So at the top, you just start at the top and you fill them in as you go down. You start by putting the date and the time in there. When you put the date and the time in the top one and you go to the next, like the end date and the time, it automatically decides what it thinks is correct. So you have to correct that over and over every time. So you just get used to that idea. Always proofread work, they say. After that, you can put in an observer. I am usually the observer because I'm supposed to be overseeing your sessions. So you could just type my name in there. The location depends on where you were doing ABA. So I put in home usually, but sometimes the client goes out to the park or the stores or something, and we put that in. It'll start, Behavior Tracker will start auto-filling that in for you at some point, which is handy. After that, we put in purpose. So it's an ABA session for most therapists. Sometimes, well, when I write them, sometimes I'm doing an overlap of a therapist, or I'm doing parent education. But usually it's going to be you and the kid, and it'll be an ABA session. So I want you to put ABA session note like this in here, and then in parentheses put your name in there. Behavior Tracker has to be worked around in some way, so it's good to put your name in there so it'll appear in the overall note section. So, what do we put in session notes? Well, we try not to put anything that's too general, that doesn't really give us much information that we can quantify. So when we say Johnny's having a great day today, that tells us not very much, as opposed to Johnny did 80% of his programs today and was very attentive. That's quantitative information that we can use. So we have this format that we want therapists to follow and put in. This has a couple advantages. One is that it'll be standardized throughout the company, so all therapists will be producing pretty much the same session notes, so they'll be easy to read and understand. Second, for insurance purposes, when we bill, if these records are reviewed, which they are occasionally, the insurance companies will want to know what happened on that day, and they're not going to be happy if Johnny had a good day as compared to Johnny made 80% progress on this and that program. So it helps to standardize records across the company. It helps insurance companies to see that we're actually doing a good job. And third, it makes life a little easier on therapists, because a therapist doesn't have to reinvent the wheel every time to write these session notes. It's like, just fill this in, I'm done. That's a good thing, because nobody wants to do more work than they have to get the job done well. So, follow this format. And a few other things to note when you're putting in these session notes. You can format it beautifully in a Word document or some other program like that, and then when you paste it in or you type it in, what happens is Behavior Tracker doesn't have very good formatting skills, and it'll turn all that beautiful work into a solid block of text. So there's no point in making it very pretty if it's only going to get pasted into Behavior Tracker until Behavior Tracker is able to format session notes so that they look good. Just a word to the wise. And finally, we come to the part where you could put recommendations in, due dates, who's it assigned to, the status, and add or cancel. So the recommendation, usually I will be reviewing your session note, and I will put in approved by David Lee, blah blah blah. So you don't need to put anything in there. The due date you don't currently have to worry about. For assigned to, you'll see that there are people on this list who are not there, or you in fact may not be on this list because somebody has to update that stuff and they haven't yet. So if you're not on there, don't click on there. And the workaround is that we put your name in parentheses further up, so you can see by looking at the session notes who wrote the note. So that's not as important as you might think. Okay, so for the status radio button, you see there, not started, 20%, 100%. That's if you're writing a much longer note than you will ever write. So just leave that one blank. And then if you're satisfied with your work, you hit the add session note or you hit cancel. Now you can go back and re-edit it, or at least I can with my permissions. So if I've made an error, I can go back and fix it. So I would never hit cancel. So this concludes this little bit on how to upload your session notes into Behavior Tracker. We have a few other things we will probably cover, but this is just a segment on entering your session notes, what they look like, where to put them, and what things to check and not to check. So that's pretty easy. I'll see you for another one of these pretty soon. Bye!